Our first morning in a new country. We arrived in Colonia on a Saturday afternoon on the ferry from Buenos Aires, and the town was crowded with tourists. I mean, it's a major tourist destination for the porteños. They go there for weekends, to eat, drink, be merry. But getting up early on a Sunday, the place was pretty much mine. I mean, there was no one around. So I was able to wander the old cobblestone streets and really, get a feel for the place without a bunch of people. Calle de los Esperos is, a major attraction in this town. Not really sure why. I mean, it's photogenic, but it's just a old cobblestone street. But man, you come here 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a Saturday or a Sunday, and it's just jam packed with people. It's a major Instagram spot. But I was really grateful to be able to get out there in the morning and just walk around by myself. At about 7:30, there were some other older tourists out taking photos, but not a bunch of people. So I was able to experience solitude and just you know, go visit the lighthouse and check stuff out. Okay, so history lesson.
Colonia del Sacramento is the oldest city in Uruguay, founded by the Portuguese in January 1680 as Nova Colonia do Santísimo Sacramento at a strategic point on the Rio de la Plata opposite Buenos Aires. And it became the focus of long-standing rivalry between Portugal and Spain, changing hands many times through wars and treaties in the 17th and 18th centuries. After the region's independence struggles, it became part of Uruguay by the late 1820s. Its historic quarter retains Portuguese and Spanish colonial architecture and is a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
We actually stayed in Colonia twice. We came back after visiting the beach towns and spent a night before going back to Buenos Aires, and we stayed right across the street from this beautiful old truck. Quite a few beautiful old trucks in Uruguay. And there's also quite a few of these, really cool old abandoned buildings, particularly down by the port here. It's rustic but charming. The hotel we stayed in was a recently renovated old, I think it was the customs house. It was beautiful. And, here we are back on the plaza. Such a cool little place. And our Airbnb, 75 meters from here, just down the street, past the fancy cars that everyone likes to photograph, and then we're right there. It was a great place. It wasn't noisy at all, and had a beautiful courtyard, and it was really cozy. I enjoyed it a lot. Just heading back for breakfast. And here we are, the front door. Another cool thing about getting up early was I got to fly the drone. Actually, it was a little less interesting to fly the drone than I thought it would be, because the city's got a lot of trees and it's quite green, but pretty nonetheless. After leaving Colonia Sacramento, we drove up to Montevideo, which is the capital of Uruguay. It's a big city. Parking's a bit of a nightmare, but it's a cool place. I didn't film anything while I was there. And then we drove east along the coast, and here we are just outside of Puente de Este in in a place called Puente Tapaena. Nice old abandoned stone house on the coast. Beautiful little area, and just panning across the bay is one of Uruguay's most famous architectural achievements. It's this fairy tale sort of castle thing built by one of their great architects. We didn't really check it out, but people do. And then we visited this wonderful botanical garden with panoramic views and good flora and fauna. Most of our time was spent on the coast of Uruguay. It's a really beautiful place, and this is definitely one of the beautiful places on the coast. It's called Jose Ignacio, and it's got one of Uruguay's iconic coastal lighthouses. I haven't seen this many lighthouses since Oregon. Beautiful sand, dunes. Apparently this place gets pretty packed in January with rich Argentinians and celebrities from far and wide. Then, of course, there's the bridge over the Laguana Garzon. I have to admit that this is one of the highlights of my trip. Strange as that sounds, I knew about this bridge and I had plans to film it. It's the whole reason I brought my drone to Uruguay. And unfortunately, on this first day, it was very, very windy, like 50 kilometers an hour, sustained winds. So I wasn't able to fly my drone. For better or for worse. I mean, I've been in situations where I nearly lost it. So what I did here was I put up, the action cam on the selfie stick 1.5 meters in the air and walked around it trying to get some perspective, which actually worked pretty well. I mean, it's a really interesting bridge. But fortunately, I was able to go back the next day and fly my drone and get some good footage of it. We spent 4 nights in the Punta de Este area in a little town called Balneario Buenos Aires. It's just a sleepy little seaside village. Apparently it comes to life in January like everywhere, but there was hardly anyone on the beaches while we were there. The sea is a little bit rough and kind of cold, but it's pretty. And, it was windy most of the time we were there, but this particular morning, which is just right before I flew over the bridge there was no wind. So I broke out the drone and flew it around to get a view of what the typical Uruguayan coast looks like. It's pretty cool. This next clip here shows interaction with some local wildlife. The birds really were curious about the drone. Didn't hit them. Anyway, that's what the Uruguayan coast looks like. So this is Cabo Polonio. The only way in or out are on these big shared transport trucks. Well, I guess you could walk, or ride a bike, or ride a horse. Live there and then you can drive. But for the tourist, the only way in is on the trucks. Capo Polonio is it's a national park, but it's also sort of a off-grid hippie community. They co-evolved. In the 1970s, a lot of Uruguayan, counterculture people moved down to the coast and set up this off-grid community, and sort of the national park built up around it. So people go there for a variety of reasons. It's a really chill spot to chill out, and there's a lot of sea lions, which is a big attraction. So it's got nature and culture. I forgot to film in any of the real cool sort of counterculture hippie off-grid establishments other than these long shots. So I put a couple photos in so you know what it looks like. On our last full day in Uruguay, or the last full day that wasn't just driving, we drove up to near the Brazilian border. Well, actually to the Brazilian border. I actually walked across the bridge into Brazil. Wasn't really anything spectacular, but I can say I've been in Brazil. It's near the town of Chuy. That's Chuy with a Y in Uruguay and Chuy with an I in Brazil. Anyway, as you heard, it was a really windy day, so I wasn't able to fly the drone. I really wanted to because we visited a couple forts, and I've seen aerial photos of them. They look particularly outstanding from the air. But instead, I give you this continuous 3-minute, 20-second walk around. I apologize in advance for some of the vertigo you may experience. The action cam gives you kind of that fisheye look in the corners, but enjoy. Okay, so history lesson.
Fort San Miguel is an 18th century fortress in eastern Uruguay, near the border with Brazil, within today's Santa Teresa National Park. Built by the Portuguese in 1737 and later captured by Spanish forces, the fort reflects the intense colonial rivalry for control of the Rio de la Plata region. Constructed of stone with thick walls, bastions, and a central courtyard, it was designed to defend key land routes rather than the coast. Restored in the 20th century, Fuerte San Miguel now serves as a historical monument, offering visitors insight into colonial military architecture and Uruguay's early territorial struggles.